Hello friends, today I would like to show you how I'm grafting by V-grafting, also known as veg grafting on Adenium. Few weeks ago I posted a video about some of the different reasons why one might want to graft onto Adenium rootstock. When I didn't yet know how to graft an Adenium, the reason was to learn. I would take a cutting and graft it onto another cutting without of the plant being in the ground even. The exercise was a reason in its own self. Why? Well, because I'm beginning, one feels like two hands is not enough. It's kind of like those Indian goddesses in books with many hands. Something like that one wishes to have when learning how to graft. My gosh, how do people do that with two hands only? But with practice, everything gets easier, faster, smoother, and better. And so, as the time progresses, one knows what one is doing and doesn't want to waste time grafting twig on twig for compost pile, but wants to create something of some kind of enhancement. And one of them is to take a rootstock with a wonderful trunk and graft on it a cultivar of Adenium that doesn't want to have a wonderful trunk but wants to create a very thick canopy. I have such experience in the past with mini or broccoli with pink or red color. The problem with mini is that it lays so close to the ground that the seedlings often tend to rot. That's why when I plant seeds of mini, I plant more than I want because I don't know how many will survive. Well, this time I planted cultivar of new type of mini with white petals. And because I was very careful taking out dry leaves as the old leaves ages, I avoided death from rot on so many seedlings that I have a surplus, which is good because I can make this wonderful rootstock to have a wonderful crown 2 or so years from now, maximum 3. Now, the best time for grafting is during the active growing season, especially the scion, the twigs that you graft on the top should have an active growing season. To encourage a couple of plants of my mini, couple of young plants of my mini to be actively growing, I took away their flowers, their flower buds and their leaves, so their buds are very actively growing. Some of them very small. Well, that is really what I want. That is what has the biggest chance to catch during grafting. Some people who know how to graft claim that they have a 100% success in grafting. I've seen it among grafters who professionally graft in nursery and fruit trees. I've seen it in a Adenium community too. It's an illusion. The mind likes to remember successes, and the mind likes to find excuses for failure. Oh, it wasn't me that batch failed. It was this bug or this weather or whatever. But success, that was due to me. Well, I'm sorry to admit that I'm not 100% successful in grafting. As a matter of fact, this wonderful rootstock I grafted last year and it failed. That's why it has so many branches. And this year I would like to graft on every main branch one of these leaves. In preparation, I will take down leaves so they won't disturb the plant from concentrating on growing upward. A plant is sort of like a fountain. It sucks the moisture from the ground and channels it upward. And I would like, if it'll be channeled, toward the scion. Scion is the technical name for those twigs that you're gonna graft on top. The name for the bottom is rootstock. So I am taking off the leaves, partially to see better what I'm doing, and partially so that the nutrients and water pumped from roots would go all up. And then I'm gonna also cut off the tops. Now I see much better what I have, and I see that there are two twigs that are very small. I'll cut those off too. Or three. Yes, three. Okay. And now we have something to work with. I would like to show you the tools I'm gonna use, or I sometimes use, for V-grafting. By the way, in a adenium community, people use often term V-grafting and flat grafting. Flat grafting is a different group of techniques. In a orchardist community of grafters, the V-grafting is called wedge grafting. So this is what I use. First of all, I use a knife, a grafting knife. Because the adenium is so soft, because adenium is so soft, I can also use a sharp razor blade. My knife, grafting knife, is a stainless steel knife. Some people believe stainless steel is hard to sharpen and they rather use traditional non-stainless steel. I did not find out that to be true. This is my sharpening knife. This is the rough side where I start. Then this is a smooth side where I smoothen it. Then people still use a kind of thing from leather to get the burl off. I just do it on my pants and gets off. People use on a sharpening knife either special oil or water. I use just water. As you can figure out from what I'm saying this way or that way, there is often more than one way of doing things. There isn't any way of doing things, just one more way or two more ways of doing things, which is simply allowing you to find your personal preference. So, knife, then once I cut the rootstock and scion and put them together, I use elastic grafting tape, either wider or narrower. In some countries it's translucent, here it's green. I said elastic for a reason. Elastic means stretchable. So by tying it tightly, it can hold better for a while as needed till it merges. Then some people are very skillful, the end to tie to its own self. I'm not so skillful. I use adhesive tape, also called electric tape, to glue the end of elastic tape to each other, to itself. Sometimes there is so much moisture coming from roots to the cut that I have to dry it, so I have a paper towel to dry it. That is more important for flat grafting, which I'm not dealing with today. Sometimes, again, much more important for flat grafting is to then seal the exposed areas of a rootstock. I like to use a Japanese grafting product that looks like this, because that black American grafting product that is sold in the store does not allow any moisture or any air to go through. The sealed area tends to rot or mold under it. This one, which is much more expensive but spreads much more thinly, so actually it is not more expensive per graft, allows some breathing. So I prefer that. It contains a small amount of fungicide also. This is how it looks, sold in many online stores dealing with either bonsais or with orchards or with vineyards supplies. It's not necessary to treat these wounds because adenium heals so well, but I can. It doesn't hurt. That way you see how it looks, how it spreads very thinly. When I was talking about importance of active growth of both rootstock and scion for the best time for grafting, well, of course, it's not only to take the leaves off during grafting on a rootstock and week before or so on a scion, on a plant supplying scion, but it's also part of a year that during the warm part of spring is best to graft. Still few more tools that I have and materials. Alcohol with a tissue paper to disinfect the grafting knife, and a tag, because I'm gonna plant on every branch the same cultivar today. I need only one tag to stick into the soil to mark for myself what did I graft it, when did I graft it. If I were to graft different cultivars because I want to have a different colors, then I would use several tags with a 3-ring puncher for a 3-ring binder used by office supply people, by office people. I would punch hole and tie it with a string here. Because I'm not just talkative but also like to write everything, I like the tags to be wide, and so often instead of buying tags in a gardening section of a supermarket, I buy in a second-hand store damaged what's the name for this, louvers, damaged louvers, and I cut them. They actually even have holes here, so I sometimes cut it like this, and there's a string to be hanging in case I do multi-grafts. And I write on the tags specifically with pencils. Why am I talking about it? Because most pens would either most inks in pens, ball pens and what have you, would either bleach on a sunshine, and adenium does like sun, or wash off with rain or watering. And so I use this very special writing instrument. It's called pencil, and it writes in all languages. That's my little joke. Okay. And what else? Oh, and I have prepared also scissors to cut the grafting tape for a purpose I already explained. So, without further ado, let me start on grafting first of these V grafts, wedge grafts. For purpose, I'm grafting always a little higher, and the purpose is, the reason is that if it fails, I can regraft lower. So the way I start is I make fresh cut where the graft would be, and I cut a scion thinner than the rootstock, so it'll be this one. So it'll go like this. Okay, so I make a cut like that, and make a cut like this for purpose, a long one, so there is a big area for merging. Then I make a cut, not V-cut like some people, because when I make a V-shaped cut, when I squeeze it, it tends to run out. I just make a single cut, and quite long, again for purpose, and put it in. Now, in orchardy, grafting orchard trees, it's always important that cadmiums will match, so it has to be on one end or on the other end, unless it's exactly same thickness. There are texts claiming that this is not the case for succulent plants, but in my experience with adenium, this is the case. I have a much larger success when I start to do it the orchardy way, this way. And I insert it very much, very strongly in. Now I take the elastic tape and wrap it once, and pull. With every wrap, I pull a little more. That's why I was explaining it's important that it'll be the elastic tape, not the other one. That's how I'm doing it. And now, so it won't unwrap itself, I will put that electric tape over it, that adhesive tape over it. The end of adhesive tape I have for purpose bended onto itself, so it'll be easy to find later where to start the unwrapping. And that's all, except sometimes this is not necessary, but if it's very windy, sometimes I put still this cream here and here, but it is necessary in my practice, in my experience when doing flat grafting, which is not the subject of this particular tape. And this graft is done, and in few weeks it'll either grow, usually it does, or sometimes die. If it dies, I will unwrap it, cut lower, and graft again another cyan. Okay, and now I'm gonna repeat what I just done here, 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 and here, and I'll be done. Still about this graft, I was going to add that some people put plastic bag over the graft to slow down the evaporation. In my climate, there is enough moisture that is not just unnecessary, but it encourages mold and rot. So I don't do that. The situation is a little more complicated in flat grafting, but that is not the subject of this video. And another little thing I was going to say is that instead of feeling like I need so many hands like the Indian goddess, I sometimes pre-cut for myself the adhesive tape, prepare it before grafting, so I don't need to do all this at once. And another thing, last thing I was going to say is that I did not figure out this common sense thing that, hey, let's graft it higher, and then if I fail I can still have a chance to second graft lower. It was my friend from little African country Gambia, Mea, who is a very, very skillful grafter of citrus trees, who was doing it, show it to me, advise it to me. Okay, so now let me go and repeat myself number of times to create this sort of tree. So again, I'm looking for a rootstock, for a cyan that's thinner somewhat than this rootstock. Here I have flower buds. That's not what I want to have, because I would like if the thing would start grow. And again, I'm making cuts very long so that plant has plenty spaces for cadmiums to merge. And I'm making the cut very long. One of the reasons is that it would grab itself better. And I choose this side because the cyan is bended this way. Later on, after this graft merges, this would be cut off, this will be cut off, so the graft would become invisible sooner. But for a while, it is good that this is so long, because instead of the plant thinking, am I gonna merge with the cyan or die, it has a third option. If it doesn't wanna merge right away, it can travel with some of the nutrients this way, make buds here, which I'm gonna destroy later. And so, meanwhile, this has a longer time to start merge. This I learned while studying commercial grafting, bud grafting of citrus, where the rootstock is left very long but broken before disconnecting it later. But this is my own variation in adenium on the same thing. Okay, so now I'm showing you the same kind of wrapping, but with the narrower plastic tape, elastic tape, grafting tape. Again, I don't know if you can see, I'm tightening the wrap with every loop. Twist and pull. Somehow it feels to me better right now, this narrower taper. The rest of the twigs I might be grafting, I might be wrapping with this one. Where did I put the black tape? Gee. I don't see it. Okay. Well, I'm gonna cut new one. And another one. This rootstock is much thicker, so I can use one of the thicker cyans. And this is what I like, when the cyan has a little tiny twig starting to grow. That can be supported with very little juices coming from the roots, yet no energy needs to be spent to start the growth. And again, I'm making very long cut, and here very long cut, but only single, not V. I can prepare the tape so I won't forget where I'm putting it, and the elastic tape for wrapping. And here we go again. Match it with the edge, push it in very strongly, And now I'm gonna start wrapping. Tightening with every turn. And one more one. Cut here. Again, this is the ideal situation for a cyan to have a young shoot. Vigorously growing, and I can choose the branch goes this way, well, this way to my aesthetics, okay, and make a cut. Cut can be done this way or that way. This thin and long. Jam it in. If it's not, then there is a little air bubble here and the whole thing has a bigger chance to start drying. My friend Maya, originally from small African country Gambia, when she grafts, so skillfully, her hands move so fast that it's hard to see what is she doing. All I can see is blur. She pre-cuts this tape also, both tapes, because she has no time. Once she starts grafting, it just goes. Commercial grafter, grafting 1,000 to 3,000 trees of the same cultivar at a time. All right, and the last one. This one has perhaps smallest chance to succeed, partially because it's too vegetable, it's too young, too thin, and partially because it's bended, and so the flow of nutrients and juices don't go so smoothly. So let me prepare for the glorious last graft. Dear graft, please succeed. Graft, I said please, so you must. And let me get the cyan. And today's project is done for now. This is called V-grafting or wedge grafting, which has both advantages and disadvantages in compared to another popular way of grafting adenium called flat grafting. One of the advantages is, in compared to flat grafting, is that the area that can merge area of cyan with the area of rootstock is much larger, and so there is a bigger chance of merging. Also, the wrapping holding it is much tighter, which gives a larger chance of success. One of the disadvantages is that it takes longer for the graft to become invisible. That makes no difference, not much difference in case of top being mini, because mini cultivar branches so profusely that way before the merger emerging spot becomes invisible, it becomes covered with numerous tiny twigs with a crown so thick that you can see it anyway. If you like this video, you might want to subscribe unless you didn't yet, because I might do more videos that interest you, perhaps about flood grafting, or perhaps how I made out of concrete this bonsai shaped large pot. And until then, goodbye friends.